Oh boy, so the Blue Jackets, they've made themselves a good number of headlines over the past few weeks, but I wanted to talk today about the Traverse City tournament in Michigan once more. The tournament that just took place with the prospects, with Detroit, Dallas, Toronto, you had yourselves Columbus in there. There were a whole bunch of teams involved in this overall tourney, and I wanted to go over one of the best guys that made himself a name in this tournament, and he's a guy whose name should not come as too much of a surprise, at least as much of a surprise as it was a few years ago when he was drafted, but today we're going to be talking about Yegor Chinakhov and the Columbus Blue Jackets, because my goodness, when we spoke earlier in the year about how Bob Hartley was like, yeah, this guy shoots like Joe Sakic, you know, that was a video we made back when the comments were made, and like, I was kind of saying, you know, Chinakhov is good, he's got this good scoring ability, he's got a good shot, etc. It's why the Blue Jackets drafted him as an overager in the first round of the 2020 draft, despite the fact that scouting outlets like, for example, over here, you had McKeen's that had him at 49th, and Future Considerations that had him at 249th as an overage player in the previous draft. This is a player that had himself a scoring touch that Kekalainen and the Blue Jackets liked. It's why they took him, and because of the comments that Hartley made where he said, yeah, he's like Joe Sakic, I was like, okay, cool. That's very hyperbolic, I think, but you know what? Good to say, right? Well, we had ourselves the Traverse City tournament go on, and it's kind of funny because in the first game against Toronto, we had ourselves the Columbus Blue Jackets prospects suiting up, and guess who gets on the board? Okay, it's Yegor Chinakhov. He scores, I believe it's the game-tying goal to make it 3-3. And it's an absolute laser of a shot on the right side. Nice. Next game, what happens there? Chinakhov suits up, guess what? He gets 2 goals. Okay, so he's up to 3 goals in 2 games played. And then against the Red Wings, you have yourselves Chinakhov going out there once more, and he scores a hat trick. Yegor Chinakhov led the tournament in goals with 6 goals in 3 games played, and they were all, like, legit goals. They weren't random lucky bounces or whatever. These were all either one-timers, absolute laser wrist shots, or just bombs from outside the faceoff circle, all with a purpose and all coming off the stick of Chinakhov. This is a guy who, when watching the games over here, you could just see it. His scoring ability, his scoring touch, it was very evident in almost every shift he had out there in the offensive zone when you gave this guy space on the right side. It's kind of why I'm making this video in the way that we are when we're discussing the potential, you know? Yegor Chinakhov is one of the best goal-scoring prospects in the National Hockey League today, even though he was an overage player who is now 20 years old, drafted in 2020, but who was born in 2001. He's a guy who, if you play him on the right side, because he is a right-wing player, as a left-handed shot, he could be the absolute complement to a guy like Patrik Laine. And you know, when somebody brought that up on social media, I looked at that and I was like, huh, that's actually extraordinarily dangerous, you know? Like, assume Yegor Chinakhov and all the hype about this guy is real, and everything the Blue Jackets are saying about this guy is good enough to the point where he could play NHL minutes next year. Assume that everything goes right. Chinakhov plays National Hockey League middle 6 minutes, and let's say he gets 15-20 goals. This is the kind of player that all of a sudden, your power play, when you are out there, can just get the puck over to. He is another one-time lethal option alongside of Patrik Laine, potentially even on the same line. You have yourselves a whole bunch of additions here on the Blue Jackets that I really do like. Voracek having his scoring and playmaking ability on this team alongside of those guys would be great. I want to see a revitalization out of Max Domi. You escaped the Seth Jones contract. You got Adam Boquist instead, who is a lethal offensively capable defenseman. Not to mention you have Zach Werenski and the best years of his career still to come. I do think the Blue Jackets, despite all of the losses they have had, you know, Artemi Panarin, Sergei Bobrovsky, Matt Duchene, and all that, despite everything that has gone down, I do think that when you try to project the best of a lot of these guys, you get yourself a really good team when you think about things, let's say 2-3 years from now. Patrik Laine is only 23 years old. He was drafted in 2016, and I mean, he's got one more year at $7.5 million, so we'll see where exactly that takes him, but This is the kind of guy that if Columbus is going to sell themselves hard on the idea that Laine is going to be their star in the future, I mean, why not try to set this guy up in the best way possible? You acquire that Voracek, play them together on a power play. We'll see what exactly happens with Chinakhov, because we know the Blue Jackets have been hyping this guy up to the moon and back. And it's like, dude, he was in the KHL last season, not really scoring too many goals, but he was still going out there scoring enough goals, you know? He was a 19, 20-year-old guy, 10 goals, 32 games played with Avangard Omsk. That's not bad. He had himself 5 goals in 21 games in the postseason, played a lot of games in the postseason. Certainly not a bad stat line, but to me, it's nothing really that pops out of the page, you know? Even on the World Junior squad, he had 1 goal in 5 games. And I get it, Team Russia was a weird team at the World Juniors this season. A lot of those guys, in my opinion, underperformed to heck. But you could still see some of the skills from a lot of those guys on display. For Yegor Chinakhov, it was his vision. It was his ability to shoot the puck towards the goal in a way that actually allowed it to get on goal. In these games in Traverse City, all these shots were lasers, dude. He had an aimbot out there. Anytime he had a chance to wind it up on the right faceoff circle, he would just grip it and rip it and it would go in. It was like Patrik Laine at his best, you know? You just see him with the puck, you think to yourself, okay, he's held onto it for more than like 2 seconds. He's probably gonna score here. And he does. So, combined with all the stuff that Columbus has, you know, I do think this team has itself a pretty underdog capability to honestly be somewhat competitive, you know? Like, I know people like to meme on Columbus because of everything that's gone wrong in this organization, with the Dubois stuff and Tortorella and all their star players leaving and all that, but you take a look at the young guys. I mean, if everything works out, which I'm not going to say is guaranteed, but if everything does, you do have yourselves what is a very interesting prospect profile for some of these guys who are entering the league, and what are some very good resumes for guys like Domi and guys like Laine, and profiles for guys like Boquist too. I really do believe that the Blue Jackets have themselves this capability into the long-term future that I think maybe a few years ago you wouldn't have said they had. You know, like Liam Foudy. I like Liam Foudy. He's a pretty good player. Big fan of Texier, big fan of Merzlikins. I like these guys a lot, but did they have those guys to really push them over the hump? I didn't really think Chinakhov would be that, you know? Like, you could remember the draft reactions after he was selected. The Sportsnet guys had no idea who this guy was. Sam Constantino was completely taken aback. He was befuddled. He was like, yeah, I don't have any notes on this guy. We didn't think he would go in this range in the first round of the 2020 draft. An overage Russian guy to the MHL? Come on. But the Blue Jackets made it work. At least, so far, they've made it work. Right now, if you take a look at the daily faceoff page of the Blue Jackets, Chinakhov currently is not listed. You have Bjorkstrand, Roslovic, Patrik Laine, Domi, Nyquist, Voracek, Foudy, Texier, Jenner, Robinson, Corrali, and Bemstrom as your top 12 forwards over there. If the Blue Jackets are really going to go out there and believe in Chinakhov as much as we have been led to believing that they are, who does he take out of the lineup here? There are a lot of guys that I do think do deserve NHL minutes in this lineup right here, but if you want to go out there and say, Chinakhov, okay, you're going to be top 6 right wing on the second line playing with, I don't know, Nyquist or whatever, or you want to say give him first line minutes, play him with Laine, have that dual scoring threat on both sides over there, then be my guest, but who do you take out, you know? Is it the automatic right wing on the fourth line, Emil Bemstrom? I kind of like Bemstrom, you know? I don't really want to do that to the guy. Liam Foudy doesn't have a ranking over here on the forwards list on Daily Faceoff, but I am a big fan of Foudy and the profile that he presents. He's a very hard worker, very fast skater, and just overall super competitive guy. He's very athletic too, but is he in a position where it's like, okay, we can just interchange him with Chinakhov, you know? Or does Chinakhov not even make the league? Does he just go to the AHL, play for the Monsters or whatever, and, I don't know, maybe score half a goal a game in the AHL as a 21-year-old? Who knows? There is indeed a plethora of options over here for Chinakhov, but my entire point here is, if he really does pan out in the way that we think he can, in the way that Bob Hartley thinks he can, where he shoots like Joe Sakic of all people, having 2 guys like this in Laine and Chinakhov could be one of the worst things the NHL has seen come out of one of its hockey teams in a good way. So, Columbus Blue Jackets fans, talk to me in the comments. What do you think about Chinakhov? Has he impressed so far? Has he blown away your expectations? Or are you just kind of like, yeah, no, this is the course for him. I was expecting this. Because for me personally, I'm surprised. Talk to me in the comments. What do you think? I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.